warm near 82. Partly sunny and a likelihood of thunderstorms and 89 tomorrow. This is your Tuesday's weather sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Bestway Portable Buildings has been your portable building specialist since 1989. Before you invest your hard-earned money someplace else, owner Jason Mulder invites you to stop by Bestway and get a quote on just about any size building. And whether you buy with Bestway or not, it's worth the trip just to meet Bestway Buddy. Say hello, buddy. Good boy. Bestway Portable Buildings, just north of Harts Marine on 231, and online at bestwayportablebuildings.com. The best in portable, period. Tell them Buddy sent ya.
Do you have a car sitting around you want to get rid of? Then here's a great idea. Donate your car and help veterans and their families. Yes, one fast call to the Veteran Car Donation Program and we'll come and remove your car for free. Fast, free towing, and 24-hour response. You can donate most cars, trucks, or SUVs in most conditions. The proceeds raised goes to help active military, veterans, and their families, and you get a tax deduction. All you need to do is make this free call. Get rid of that old car and help the vets. We make it easy. Make this free call now and book your fast and easy pickup. Call the Veteran Donation Program now. Donate your car and help veterans and their families. Operators are standing by. Here's the number.
800-932-1176. 800-932-1176. 800-932-1176. That's 800-932-1176.
Los Rancheros has been doing it right for 20 years. Los Rancheros brings a top-shelf dining experience to you with the opening of their beautiful new building. Watch all college and pro games on Los Rancheros' 14 large-screen TVs with great drink specials daily from 2 to 5 and during all the games. Los Rancheros, the place for live sports and great food on 23rd Street between Jenks and Harrison.
You owe the IRS back taxes, and dealing with the IRS stresses you out. Fortunately, IRS Problem Relief can help you resolve back taxes and represent you to the IRS so you don't have to face them alone. Last year, IRS Problem Relief saved clients drowning in tax debt. And IRS Problem Relief is a local company right here in Panama City. Not some 800 number where you can never talk to the same person twice. Put those problems behind you so you can focus on moving forward. Call Edward Corey with IRS Problem Relief, 850-784-8176. For a free consultation, call Edward Corey with IRS Problem Relief. It's 850-784-8176 or visit irsproblemrelief.com.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota.
And that's out of the ballpark.
ESPN, Northwest Florida.
Get ready.
Deep center field and heading for the horizon.
Sports Talk Radio will never be the same.
Onions, pickles.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Way back and gone.
On ESPN.
Northwest Florida.
What is going on, Northwest Florida? You are now riding with the Afternoon Underdogs, tuned into ESPN Northwest Florida. 104.3 right here in beautiful Panama City, Florida, and 101.9 in Port St. Joe. I'm your host today, David Hayes. I guess I'm your host normally every day, but it's just a little different being on this side of the board here 2 days in a row. I'm just starting to get comfortable back here, Tyler, as we got Tyler Bishop in the building with us. It's going to be a little different Tuesday. Normally we have Caveman Rick with us, but something went down at work, man. So he's going to trade the Tuesday in for Thursday as we wait for James to get back. And then Max DeLayden up there in, Northwest Wisconsin. Playing golf, though. Good prices up there on the...
$28 or 20? Yes, sir. Bring them prices down here. We need a little bit of that.
We do. I'll say Bay Point does a good job of giving you deals throughout the year to make that golf course more accessible for the people who can't, spend a whole bunch of money on golf. You've got Sunny Hills over there who does a good job, I would say, and now it's been a while since I've played there, but as long as they keep the golf courses, specifically the greens, in decent condition, I feel like the price point is good there.
I will say it's a little bit of a drive for us, but Blackstone is just west of Defuniak, kind of like Mossy Head area. For the price point, that's actually a really nice golf course.
And what is that price point looking like?
I want to say it's like the 40s.
Oh,
40. I mean,
that's not shabby at all.
It's a little bit of drive for this area, or from Panama City, Panama City Beach, but it plays on one of the higher points in Florida, so you get a little elevation too. So it's a little unique because just a lot of the course around here are flat because it's Florida. Florida's flat, but it does have a little bit of elevation, which is kind of a cool uniqueness for it.
I will say one of my favorite courses around here. Nature Walk is one of those best bang for your buck and makes you feel a lot better about your game, your golf game than you should ever be feeling. But it'll heighten up the confidence for you. There's some drivable greens there, and so that course is great for the confidence boost. I'll say a course that I go to. Especially during winter, because they give out local discounts. They give out local discounts both sides. Signal Hill.
Yeah.
I like that course because I can show up with like 6 golf balls and I might leave with 5.
Yeah, no.
I rarely lose them there.
It's pretty open, and it's a good, especially if you're not super good at golf. Which applies to most everybody that plays golf.
If you're listening, more than likely you ain't that good.
But so it is a nice, kind of one of those, it's a little bit longer than Nature Walk, but it's not crazy long either. So it's kind of that nice in between as you're kind of trying to get your golf legs underneath you and get a little more confidence in your game.
Hey, confidence is key though. And I think that's across the board in sports. I'll tell you where I'm not finding confidence just yet. And that is EA CFB College Football 25. I know that you haven't got the opportunity. Well, you might have had the opportunity to play it. I know you've had the opportunity to hear about it.
Oh, yeah.
Is it bothering you having the physical? Not that you got the physical copy, but is it bothering you hearing things and been like, maybe I should have got the digital release?
Would I rather be playing it right now?
Yeah.
Yeah, but I don't know. Like I said, I waited 10 plus years for this game. I can wait 3 more days, and I'm good. I'm old school with it a little bit. This is the first video game I've actually really looked forward to buying since probably NCAA 14.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It's just not the same downloading it and whatever. And I know I've had some issues in the past, on my buddies, having to choose. If you have strictly digital games, you start to kind of run into a storage issue, and I didn't want that to be an issue. I didn't know how big the file was. I know
28 gigabytes doesn't even make sense for how good that game is and how small it is, because you got MLB The Show is 89 and a half
2K is 179 or something crazy.
I think that has to do more so with the online play, where you're my player. And
probably.
you could just walk around in the city. It's like GTA for a basketball game.
What's the point? I want to play basketball. I don't care about I don't care about doing side quests in a sports game. That's not what you're here for.
You're making me walk over to this court so I could stand on the side of the court just so I could play with people who I don't even know in the first place. But for some people, I think that's a really cool element of the game, and obviously they do a great job selling. I've only played, I didn't want to just jump straight into college football today, because I'm sure that we've been wearing our listeners out with talking about video games. And guys, this isn't an esports radio show. This is a sports radio show. We've got a lot of college football on tap with you for you today, guys. It's just going to be me and Tyler. I've had my live programming director hat on today, just kind of getting us ready for the college football season. I know that when I got Tyler in the building, we're going to be talking college football anyway, so we're kind of going to recap what we talked about in the Big 12 last week. We've got our predictions out. We did those, and then we'll walk through the ACC game by game, which might even be more so boring than what the Big 12 was, but we'll find out, man. I haven't even really taken a good long gander at the ACC schedule. I
was kind of doing it quick because we were talking about the non-conference game, and so it's actually Wake Forest. It looks like it's Wake Forest, Virginia. Week 2 is going to be a non-conference ACC matchup. But then also kind of looking at Florida State's schedule, it's weird that they play 3 non-conference games to end their schedule. Like that, typically especially in the SEC, you see 2 or 3 to start the season.
Yeah.
Sometimes you get that cupcake right before rivalry weekend. But they end the season at Notre Dame, off Charleston, Southern Florida, which I think is a fairly, it's not very often you see that many non-conference games that late in the year.
Yeah, well, maybe it's and of course they've had the schedule ready to go for years, just not having the dates and times for each one. Which, shoot, in college football you don't get the dates till you're about 2 weeks out from a game, anyways. So maybe it was one of those, what happened last year ain't gonna happen again, brother. If we get to 10-0, son, we're going 12-0 this year. But you can't prevent injuries. That's one thing that you can never stop from happening, and that's exactly why Florida State was left out. But going back to college football real quick, because I can't get too far away from it, man. I'm like, it's been one of the first time in a long time I get into video games. So I'm not a big, I'll play Call of Duty and I'll have like a month-long stretch where I'm like, all right, boom, Grand Theft Auto. Sometimes I'll fall back into Red Dead Redemption. But I also, my sports video games is where it's at. And I usually, stick with those through the season that they're playing. But I tell you what, it's been a long time since I've been like, man, I wish I would have brought my Xbox up to work with me today. I would have, done a little bit of work, played a game, done a little bit of work, played a game. I did not do what I said I was going to do. And the first thing, as soon as I started playing the game, check all the options out and just, see about everything. In fact, I didn't even do a tutorial, which has led to the lack of confidence I was referring to earlier. I think because I went with the new passing model, and I haven't necessarily got that dialed in yet. In fact, it took me about 2 games till I realized on the kicking meter, the first time that you touch A is just for accuracy, but you got to hold it down for the power.
Oh,
I didn't realize that till I accidentally held it down, and I was like, "Oh, there's the power meter." So, I haven't checked out all the options. The only thing I've done is Dynasty, and I went with UCF. I was going to try to win Randy Pittman the Heisman, which, hey, still, I got 2 years as long as he doesn't go to the draft after next year.
Or portal out.
Or portal out, which is interesting. So, kind of looking at that, you have 3 different criterias of what could have a player leave. You've basically got like your overall program letter grade, which is, like a C, A, B, or C, or whatever. UCF was at a C when I first got him, and we're still sitting at a C. Then you have like your championship caliber. What's your letter grade is for, are you going to get a championship or not? So then that'll have players starting to stack up over there like, oh, well, we're not going to win a championship here. And it's got meters by each of the players. And there's one other category in the middle. So I haven't been able to mess with the transfer portal yet because I just started week 1 with UCF, and it's been fun. I've got to get into the passing tutorial, or at least figure out what it is, because I've been throwing too many picks. I've been playing it like it's Madden, which I've seen people say like it's not just a reskin of Madden. It's not. There's a new motion system in there, and it's great. But also, this is coming from a guy who plays Madden pretty deep into the year, each and every year. And I haven't felt like Madden is. I feel like the last 2 or 3 years now, yes, they put more focus on Ultimate Team than they do anything else. However, I felt like the game has gotten closer to, I feel like what I'm doing with this controller is what that guy is doing. So if I'm throwing an interception, I feel like that's my fault because I didn't use the correct button. And I think a lot of people get into Madden and they're just pressing the buttons.
Yeah.
They're not trying to use high throw, trying to use low throw, all of that, trying to match those up with the routes that it is that you're throwing. So I think there's, and then also when you're playing online, you've got certain people who play Madden, or eventually college football will be in the same realm there. They play it like a video game rather than playing it like it's football. And those guys are always going to be better than the people who are playing it like it's a game of football.
Yeah, there's a fine line. Like how close to a actual simulator do you want it to be? Like, you want it to still feel, it needs to be fun and entertaining, but so many people want like the realism. That's kind of what you're talking about. Like, if I throw the pass wrong, that's on me. Like, that's not on adding some of those controls. So if I threw the interception, hey, I got nobody to blame but myself, like a quarterback does. If he messed up, he messed up. And I think we're, as games get more realistic and it's getting more to a more like actual simulation as opposed to a video game. And I think that's where you're seeing the people like, oh, it's so hard now, or it's not like it used to be, because 10 years ago, it was much more video game than like an actual simulation. So, no, I'm pretty pumped Friday to kind of get into it a little bit, have a little bit better review. We won't try not to keep harping on it every week now that it's out, but, we can touch on it every so often.
I mean, I think that there's a lot of people who enjoy hearing about it, especially the ones who have already been playing it, because it's like, whoa, do you feel the same way about the game as I do? Maybe there's people out there who could care less, but again, welcome to David Hayes' Afternoon Underdogs, buddy. And you can call in and change us up on a topic by calling the number 850-215-6290. And if you like fantasy football, why in the world would you not like some video games for college football? But that leads me to one of the next points. I'm sure we'll be bouncing back and forth. And if you guys have any thoughts or takes on college football 25, text them into us, 850-215-6290. Fantasy football, the live fantasy football draft, absolutely free to play here with ESPN Northwest Florida, and we've got our draft date set, and where we're going to be drafting is going to be at PCB Hobby August 25th, so that is going to be on a Sunday. I would plan for 6:30. It's BYOB, so bring your own beverages is what we're going to call it, but exactly how it sounds is exactly how it is.
6:30 p.m. I guess.
6:30 p.m. Yes.
I was kind of hoping for like a 6:30 a.m. early morning tailgate, be tailgate out the parking lot type of draft like that.
There you go.
Whole different feel to it, but
absolutely, that would change a lot of the picks, especially if it was a 6:30 a.m. start time, but we ain't drafted till 6:30. So may the best man survive.
Then it's a marathon.
That is a marathon indeed. What's the earliest that you've gotten up for a tailgating experience? Let's say you're going to go see the Dogs somewhere, and let's say the game starts at 6:30 at night. What time are you arriving?
So a few years back, I went to an Georgia-Auburn game, and the people that we were tailgating with, they're like, we'll pick you up. Like, they picked us up at 5 or 6 o'clock in the morning, and it was a night kickoff. So, I mean, it may have been 6:30 our time, 7:30 Eastern.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we left the hotel when it was dark, and we got back to the hotel when it was dark. And, like, I don't know, it was an all-day thing. And at that point, though, you're constantly doing stuff. You're watching, game day on a TV. You bring a portable TV. You're watching game day. You're watching some of the games throughout. You're doing entertainment, cornhole and whatever other type of games you're playing to pass the time. And then you want to start heading to the stadium about an hour and a half, 2 hours early anyway.
Get in there.
I'm a big, 45 minutes to an hour before kickoff, I want to be in the stadium.
Are you like how it was Sunday night for Argentina and Colombia? Is that how you normally get into the stadium?
No, not quite. Like I said, I really like to be more I want to be able to remember the game and have fun with it. Like when I'm at a game, you pay too much money to go to a game, especially now anymore.
Ain't that the truth?
I ain't gonna pay $800 or by the time ticket and gas and everything else to not remember the game or not enjoy it as much as Luckily, the Dogs been winning a lot more lately, so it's been fun almost every single time outside of a trip or two here or there. But
when game day, I'll go right back to it. When game day was in FSU for the game that Jameis Winston missed, or they were at Doak and Sean McGuire, backup quarterback. Me and my buddy, we knew that the game started at 6 p.m., but we wanted to be the first people inside of the gates at College Game Day. And we were thinking, all right, they'll probably start opening up the grounds at like 6 o'clock. Nah, it's about 8 a.m. That's when they start letting people in. So we were there in Tallahassee time at 4 a.m. Which means we left here at about 2 a.m. Well, actually, that would be more close to
1 a.m. our time.
1 a.m. our time. I don't even remember getting any sleep. The first thing that we had to do was go get our materials to make a sign, because we wanted to have a sign resembling very closely to what Jameis Winston said to get.
It's funny because I'm used to my uncle, growing up, he wanted to go to he didn't want to pay for parking. He was cheap.
Yeah.
But he wanted to go, so he'd get there 5, 6 o'clock more, make sure you get one of those free parking spaces that were so prime. And so that's just kind of the way I grew up. Like, if you weren't early, you weren't. And so I was actually in Tallahassee for the Oklahoma-Florida State game. What was it, back in 2011, 2012? Game day was there and everything. I was actually, at school on campus at the time. And I remember them kind of setting up for it throughout the week. And we had friends coming over and they're like, oh yeah, we'll probably be there 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning. I'm like, 9 or 10 o'clock, half the day's already gone. What are we doing here, guys? And it was just a stark difference. And for what a big game it was, that was a huge matchup at the time. And, it was what it was. It was still a great time. I think Florida State actually ended up losing that game, but we won't talk about that a whole lot. But so game day is an awesome atmosphere. If anybody's never been and you can, I'd highly recommend it. I think the last game I went to that had game day was Arkansas, Georgia, a couple years back, 2021, the noon kickoff, and that was an incredible experience. But definitely recommend if you can make it to a game day game. Just go check it out and just kind of experience it.
Yeah, man, it's really awesome being in the throngs of the crowd, if you will, there, and just being right smack dab in the middle of it. And the first time we got in, we actually got in with our sign. and we were very surprised that we even got in the first time. And my buddy had left something in the truck, so instead of me just staying there with a sign, I was like, I'll walk with you. We've already been in once. Like, we'll be good to go. We come back in, and we're in there for a few minutes, and then one of the guy comes up. He's just laughing. He's like, bro, I love this sign.
But I'm doing my job.
But we're not going to be able to air that. So, yes, I'm right there with Tyler. If you ever have the opportunity to go check out a college game day game, the atmosphere is really, it's next. I mean, it's something that you will not regret going and doing. And I think that's at any campus that you go to. Now, I don't have too many to compare from. I don't have anything other to compare than to the game that I went to there at Doak Campbell. So you said you've been to 2?
So that game, I wasn't at game day for that game, but game day was setting up. I've been to one in Auburn. It was an Auburn, Georgia game. Game day was there, and we were there. Georgia, Arkansas one year, a couple years back. I mean, I've probably been to another one or two, but it's basically been in Athens when I've been. So it's always fun, but it's the same experience, right? You're not getting a huge variety at that point.
That's what that's kind of where my next question was going to go, is like, what was the best place that you've been to when game day was there? Caveman Rick chiming in saying, nice hat, Dave. Yeah, it is a nice hat because you got it for me, brother. So I appreciate that. Wearing the Lightning here I feel like that's 2 days in a row I've wore Tampa Bay Lightning. No, don't even remember what hat I wore yesterday now, because I know that I wore a Tampa Bay Lightning hat on Sunday, and we've been out of hockey for a little while now. Let's go Braves, though. Last night we had the home run derby. Maybe I'll chime in a little bit about that in the next segment. Where are you going?
Did you see the national anthem? Did you see what she said today about the national anthem?
That's where I was kind of. I mean, I definitely want to talk about the home run derby. I'm not a huge fan of that. We'll kind of leak into the next segment. But Ingrid Andress, which I did not hear the national anthem live.
Oh, okay.
Live.
Yeah.
And then I went back. Because Johnny Yankee Seed actually was the one. He texted me. I had flag football last night. So as soon as the show was over, boom, head to flag football. We got back to our winning ways. But shout out to Bill Holt and the Jaguars, man. Fun game, and even more so, it was cool because there's a mercy rule in that league or whatever, but both teams stayed over afterwards and kind of continued to play. The refs, they left. They said, no, we're not hanging on for the rest of this. But, yeah, we got a couple of extra reps in. A little two-hand touch. Me and Ryan were kind of like the refs, the umpires and the refs at that point in time, and just kept the game going on, but letting the kids get some reps in, get into some positions that they normally don't necessarily play. But, yeah, Ingrid Andress, Johnny Yankee Seed hits me up, shares the video, I believe, with me on Facebook. And I'm like, well, check this out. Like, it can't be that bad, right? We've had a lot of, and it was. I almost feel bad, not for her necessarily, just because it's like, you're the artist. Like, a lot of people these days really can't sing. You just hear the post product after the mixing and the mastering. And you're like, oh man, they're really good at singing. Then you hear them live, and you're like, oh man, they really ain't that good at singing. So yes, that was absolutely atrocious. Which I believe her dad works in Major League Baseball. He's worked with like 3 different teams. She's a country singer. I'm just now finding out all of these details.
Well, I saw that she was like a 4-time Emmy Award finalist, and I was surprised because I'd never heard of her before.
Yeah,
and
me neither.
And she's a 4-time Emmy Award finalist?
Yeah.
What?
So she came out today and she says, I'm not going to BS y'all. I was drunk last night, and she's going to be checking into rehab. I mean, good for you. If that's the step that you really want to take, hey, good for you. I'm all for anyone trying to get sober or trying to, better themselves in any way, shape, or form. I just feel like that's the one of the few industries where you can get away with, if, maybe you're not that good at singing or whatever, but if you're, drinking and carrying on and carrying the crowd, then the crowd's going to love you. You can't do it for too long.
No.
But, back in the day, Kenny Chesney and all them, they were right there in the same daggone boat.
Luke Bryan had a ton of those concerts where he doesn't remember half the concert the next day type situations. But I don't think you can really do it the national anthem though.
I
think that's part of it. I don't think anybody would care if she was at her own concert and doing whatever.
That's a good point.
I think part of it being the national anthem and a whole audience that doesn't know who you are.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say nobody knew who she was, but there's probably a.
But I mean, we've had Fergie is a good example. And I don't know if she was drunk or not. Roseanne Barr. There's another one that I always forget, and I know AG, if he's listening at all, he's already on top of who it is. But it was a male. So, anyways, that is a good point though that you bring up. Is it is you're doing the national anthem, and so maybe you should have waited to start drinking until after that particular performance. And it wasn't good. It wasn't good at all. It was one of the worst I've ever heard, but I've also heard some pretty bad ones before. Yeah. So, hey, it is what it is, but hopefully she gets the help that she needs, and kudos to her for actually, she didn't have to come out and say that. She could have kept it a conversational piece, if you will. Is it not almost better that she came out and said that she was? It is better. Because I mean, it would be a worse look for her to just be like, I was that bad. I was, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's almost be like, even if she wasn't drunk, coming out and saying she was probably the right move, because that was just awful. It was terrible. Tone deaf. It was... Oh, man. But hey, she came out, she said it, and we'll talk a little bit more about the actual home run derby, what went on the field when we get back, and then we'll talk about the Big 12. Teoscar Hernandez, though, getting the job done in the home run derby. Carson Dorsey, this is also another fun fact before we take a break. Carson Dorsey, drafted in the 7th round. He's headed to play for the Baltimore Orioles. Nice left-handed pitcher who played great for Florida State last year, and was a Gulf Coast Commodore as well, and I believe graduated here from Old Arnold. So shout out to him, shout out to the Orioles for drafting him, and we're going to take a quick time out. You're riding along with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We'll be right back.
ESPN Northwest Florida, available on all your devices.
Connected.
Hear your favorite sports talk hosts.
The Coach James Hale Show. You're listening to the Inside Drive live.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
And your favorite teams.
Braves winning!
We're live on the app. Tune in, Alexa, ESPNPC.com, Facebook, YouTube, and in your car at 101.9 and 104.3. Wherever you go, there we are. ESPN Northwest Florida.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida. The rest of the day, possible thunderstorms and partly sunny and a temperature of 89 with wind 8 to 12 miles per hour out of the southwest. Mostly clear skies tonight and quite warm near 82. Partly sunny and a likelihood of thunderstorms and 89 tomorrow. This is your Tuesday's weather sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Love a great deal? This is the big one. The Big One sales event is going on now, and you can get 3.99% APR plus 90 days until you make your first payment on Camry's new elevated design. Make every drive count and get 2.99% on the stylish Corolla. Rule every adventure and get 2.99% on a new RAV4. Or enjoy the power and get 1.99% on the tough Tundra. Come see us for the big one at Panama City Toyota.
Offer ends July 31st. Visit PanamaCityToyota.com for details.
Discover the most convenient way to buy men's clothing. Pierce Bespoke. Whether it's custom or casual, they come to you to take the hassle out of shopping. If buying off the rack doesn't work for you, let Pierce Bespoke show you how to get the perfect fit. Call Pierce Bespoke to schedule your appointment. 251-278-8270. That's 251-278-8270.
He doesn't live paycheck to paycheck. He lives transaction to transaction.
I need about $350.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Taking all cases of $350. If you want to send that to my Venmo account, if we get, I don't know, maybe 100 people to send me $3.50, then I'll be doing better off this week and next week and the next week. Just kidding. But I do live transaction to transaction. I think a lot of us here in the country right now are living transaction to transaction because it feels like each daggone transaction is getting a lot more higher in the price column, if you will. I mean, daggum orange juice. Now, I did notice last week when I went to the store that milk seemed like it was dropping a little bit, but the old orange juice is sitting up there, at least at one particular store, like $8 for a gallon, boy. I'm like, my goodness, I'm going to go find somebody with an orange tree and just shake it on down then, bro.
I'd rather go buy a couple gallons of gas.
Yeah, golly, drink some of that then, huh? Oh, man. Fred Hapner chiming in. The national anthem I was looking for was Carl Lewis. That was Carl Lewis. And then Boston Tim with a few texts. He went to Florida State versus Boston College when Matt Ryan started 8-0, and then FSU won with a last-second field goal to knock us out of second place in the country, which is a weird spot for Boston College, but a good spot nonetheless. And who's their coach? OC. Bill O'Brien.
Billy
O'Brien. You think?
Because their head coach just left to be the defensive coordinator for the Packers.
Yeah.
That's what led to that whole.
Do you think he does he turns that program, maybe not around, but like I guess we're going to find out today how we feel about him, right?
I'm probably I don't know how they set up this year. I mean, granted, they gave Florida State a nice run for their money. That's the only Boston College game I can say I really paid a whole lot of attention to last year, just because Florida State dominated that game for so long and then it almost choked it away at the end. But I don't know. I'm probably a little bit higher on Bill O'Brien than probably the average football fan. I think he did a great job at Penn State when he was there. I thought he did a pretty good job for a while. The Texans, I think he may have ended up with a little too much control and may have had bit off a little bit more than he could chew. Long term, and I know Bama fans weren't his biggest supporters as the OC there.
Name a coordinator where they're like, man, we love this guy, Kirby Smart, after he's gone.
Exactly. But the offensive coordinator is just the easiest guy. Is an easy guy to hate if you're not scoring 45 points every game. It must
absolutely.
be. So I think he's great. I think he'll be great for what they did. What he did at Penn State following the whole Joe Paul and the Sandusky sanctions was pretty impressive, I thought, and obviously led to him getting the Texans job. But I think he'll be a solid guy. Does he end up keeping them bowl relevant every year? And I think if you're Boston College, do you have much higher expectations than like a 9-3 every so often? And if you're realistic with that, then I think he's your guy. You're Boston College, you can't really expect to find a guy that's going to take you 11-1.
If we were naming tiers, they would be the tier name for schools in that realm would be the Bowls Still Matter.
Yeah,
the Bowls Still Matter, because I know a lot of people want to say like the bowls are irrelevant, and I think to certain programs
there should only be about 15 probably.
There you go.
And I think that may even be a high number.
And I think that that number shrinks a little bit this year.
Yeah.
Now that, you're talking about 12 teams available to win the championship.
And I think even a program like Ole Miss, like a lot of people have high expectations from this year, but like historically, a bowl should matter to them.
Right.
Like they should not be a team that doesn't care about a bowl. I'm not saying they have ever acted that way, but like there's a lot of programs that people would kind of think should be up there that historically and even semi-recently, you're not there. You're not nearly there.
Honestly, Georgia just entered this round.
Yeah.
4 years ago.
Basically.
Let's say, but it was a long time coming. But yeah, they kind of just entered this sphere. Texas thinks they're there.
They're not there. They've won one. I mean, and I don't even mean this like as a dish. Like they've won one title in 50 years.
Right.
Like they shouldn't have a much higher expectation for themselves than they should. Than they do. Like it's Texas A&M is one of those programs that thinks they probably bowls don't matter, but they should absolutely matter to a program like Texas A&M. I mean, outside of Bama and Georgia, you could probably we'll throw Clemson and maybe Ohio State. But if you haven't won, and I guess LSU is one.
I'm cool with Clemson being there. I'm cool with Clemson.
I think they're slowly working their way out of that tier.
It's Bama, Georgia. Talk about a team who, and we cannot say this yet, but I'm fine with saying it as a Bama fan. Bama could be working their way out of that tier. We'll have to see what happens in the next 2 to 3 years.
Yeah.
But right now, it's Bama, Ohio State, Georgia. If you want to throw LSU in there, I'm fine. Clemson, also fine if you want to throw them in the tier where it's like championship or bust type programs.
Yeah, but outside of that,
Florida State, here's an issue I have with them getting out of the bowl game and all of that. Because again, I was a guy who in LSU, Jeff, if you're listening, we'll get you on here in just a second. For Florida State, for 5 years, it's we back, just like Miami. And then you finally are back, and you finally do deserve to be one of the top 4 teams. Quarterback or not, from my perspective,
deserving.
Deserving. Right. I'm not going to say that they were
a top 4 deserving team.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, for me, I think that matters a little bit more than like the eye test of who the best 4 teams are. Now, I think that's a different conversation when you get to 12. I do think that ratings play a large part in that, and I think that you got a really good college football playoff out of last year, because had Georgia beaten Alabama, I think the difference in the Georgia-Florida State game is a couple of touchdowns. Florida State scores a couple of more, maybe. And honestly, and Georgia maybe puts up 50 instead of 63.
Honestly, I'm not sure Florida State scores a ton more. Like, obviously, Keon Coleman, Johnny Wilson are difference makers.
Right.
But, like, their quarterback play was so bad those couple games.
But that's so.
Like, their defense obviously plays significantly better.
Right.
But, like, they may have scored 13. I'm not confident they score much more than that.
And that's not to knock Florida State there. Where it is for the fans. Now, I get the players, and I dislike this. And I think that if you go back to Bama missing out 2 years ago, they take on Kansas State in their bowl game, and a lot of draft picks on that team did not opt out. So I feel fair in saying this. You're wanting to be back. And I think a lot of Florida State fans would have liked to see their players playing in this game. But let's play these bowl games, especially if it's a New Year's Six. If it's a New Year's Six, which all of those are essentially going to be wrapped up into the college football playoff. But I really would have liked to see Florida State going full strength there in that game against Georgia.
And I think I said this one time on the show. We had a caller talking about it, like how Florida State Florida State as a program doesn't care about bowl games, but it's like, nobody in that program, or like really nobody associated with that program, has probably played in a game more prestigious than the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't even mean that as a disrespect. Like, it's just facts.
Right.
Norvell coaching at Memphis never played in a bowl game higher than that. Fisk coming from West Virginia or Western Michigan. Jordan Travis coming from Louisville over. Keon Coleman coming from Michigan State, unless he was part of that Michigan State team that played in the Peach Bowl. But even then, you're talking kind of a wash. Those are a lot of guys that were transferred to Florida State to play in a bigger game like this. I know it wasn't the big game they wanted, but it was still a bigger game that they could have played it. And again, we're probably just beating a dead horse and doing whatever.
Max isn't here today, so someone had to fill those shoes.
Yeah, but it's still
Florida State is a team that honestly, I kind of silently root for all the teams in this area, because when all of these teams are doing better, there's more trash talk going on, man. Like, when's the last time that you've really heard? Now, Miami and Florida State fans get after each other, but Florida has almost been essentially eliminated from the mix when it comes to talking trash with any bearing.
You get a little bit game week.
Yeah.
And you just get like Florida fans actively rooting against Florida State. It was like, wait, if you're a Florida fan, you really can't say a whole lot to anybody right now. I mean, Vanderbilt,
yeah, you can say something to Vandy.
Maybe, and outside of that, though, there's not a whole lot of teams out there that you're allowed to talk trash to right now if you're Florida.
Let's go over to LSU Jeff. Before that, I got a text here from Boston Tim. He said he saw Ingris open up for Keith Urban, and she was amazing. So kudos to her there. LSU Jeff, you're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. What's up, my dude?
Not much. I just wanted to get in on the college football talk, but I agree with your cohort there. Texas is in one big. They talk like they're always been there, and it's kind of like, you guys, you aren't as big as you think you are,
Yeah, what's another team that grinds your gears with the amount of trash that they talk compared to the amount of wins they bring to the table?
Ooh,
and why is it Tennessee?
Oregon?
Tennessee. Oregon, that's a fun one. What have they been?
Oregon, Tennessee is definitely a top 5 on talking a little bigger than what you are.
I guess I don't know.
Sure.
I don't interact with enough Oregon fans to really say I've heard that a lot. Like, I mean, it's just not super common in this area.
Oregon fans are normally, from the ones I know, LSU, Jeff and Tyler, they normally seem to be kind of passive. Like, they're just happy to be there and they love their uniforms.
Yeah, well, with Washington's success this past year, it seemed like they were chirping a lot more than they have in the past, for sure.
I think that is the benefit of having a coach like Dan Lanning, who has kind of brought that dog out of him, if you will.
Yeah. But when you were talking about, teams that are in the conversation, all that, I try and remain unbiased. And LSU is not a top 5 program. I think if we are to slip in the top 10, I think I'm happy with that. We're always around number 10 and number 12 when people talk about big programs. And, it's we have the advantage of being a flagship school like nobody else in the state even comes close to being, comparing. Just like Ohio State has that, and Wisconsin and Missouri both have that. Everything in the state goes one way,
Yeah, I will say, I've said it before, I honestly believe LSU is probably the best job in the country, just with the in-state loyalty that LSU has. Like you said, they're the only show in town when it comes to all that talent in Louisiana. Louisiana per capita is one of the top 3 NFL producing states in the country. And then, it's a great home environment. I've been to a game at LSU. The environment was great. The city was great. The fans were great. You get your bad apples, but that's every fan base. But LSU, especially the last, 8 years, 10 years, maybe even towards the end of the Les Miles era, it's just been such a roller coaster. They're either they're playing for a national championship, kind of like Auburn. They're about to play for a national championship, but it's what the heck are they doing over there?
Yeah.
And last year with the way that defense was kind of one of those, what the heck are they doing over there? But LSU's won, 3 titles in the last 20 years. That kind of gives them some right to be we're kind of championship or bust mentality, even though they've had 1 or 2 real low years and a couple what the heck are we doing out here, guys?
Yeah. Yeah, where Tennessee hasn't been there because Alabama beat them every single year.
Well, they made that sweet coffee book table for the win over Bama and then proceeded to get blown out in Athens. But, whatever. They made a book mid-season because of 1 win.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. But Florida State, now let me tell you, and this gives me a different perspective now.
Yeah.
My last girlfriend was a Gator, and she was hardcore. And then my girlfriend now, she's a Seminole.
So you upgraded a little bit. All right.
And it's kind of humorous because the Gator girl, her and all her friends are pretty toxic against the Seminoles. And then my girlfriend now is I don't want to say she doesn't care, but it's not as toxic as the Gators are.
Is she as big of a fan as what the Gator was? We'll call Miss Seminole and Miss Gator. Is Miss Seminole as big of a fan of just college football as what Miss Gator was?
Choose your words wisely in case she's listening.
Well, no, let me tell you, the Gator girl, she was not just football. It was basketball. It was baseball. It was, what was the oddball sport? I don't know. She was all over the place. She was everything Gators,
Hey, that's how the Gators have to be, bro. Kyle Albert, he is notorious for it. In fact, Wright State Chris was just bringing up how he's bringing up, Florida Gator baseball here, and he's always talking about how many Gators are going to be in the Olympics, which, hey, I have no issue with you guys having pride in what your schools are doing. Hey, that's the whole point of collegiate athletics, man, and I love it. But when we're sitting here talking football, don't bring other sports into the equation. I'm not sitting here talking about women's softball when Alabama's going to go 9-3 next year.
Hey, but stop for a second. Who's playing tonight? The baseball all-star game.
Yes, sir.
I'd be surprised if y'all didn't talk about that.
Well, this is I was going to talk a little bit about the home run derby and then about the all-star game. With I procure my shows to my cast. Tyler would rather watch me paint a wall and watch that dry more so than baseball. So what my favorite part about having Tyler on when we're talking about other sports, if I have someone else on with me, and so LSU Jeff, hang on with us in the next segment. We'll talk a little all-star baseball if that's cool with you. But what my favorite thing about having people on who don't necessarily follow a certain sport is you get better questions from when people bring something up. Tyler does a really good job of bringing up things from a totally different perspective that maybe guys who follow baseball heavily just don't see it from, just because they're so, like an umpire with a strike zone, just so accustomed to seeing things how we see it. And I like having that fresh point of view there. So LSU Jeff, if you got some time, we'll take a timeout and come back and talk some all-star baseball with you.
Okay, cool.
All right, that is LSU Jeff on the line. Tyler Bishop in the building. I'm David Hayes. We're the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to take a quick timeout, and I'm going to tell you how you can sign up to play some fantasy football with the Afternoon Underdogs when we return.
America's team plays here.
And a rocket to right field. This thing is into orbit.
The Atlanta Braves on ESPN Northwest Florida. Acuna, Ozzie, and Austin Riley lead the Braves' high-powered offense.
Swung on, belted, deep right field. Get out of here, Ozzie. Home run. Ball game.
The Atlanta Braves Sports on ESPN Northwest Florida is sponsored by Brock's Pest Control. Store more portable buildings, reliable hydraulic solutions. Bill Bird Kia and Mid-South Lumber.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida. The rest of the day, possible thunderstorms and partly sunny and a temperature of 89 with wind 8 to 12 miles per hour out of the southwest. Mostly clear skies tonight and quite warm near 82. Partly sunny and a likelihood of thunderstorms and 89 tomorrow. This is your Tuesday's weather sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
You're a real estate agent, not a social media expert, but you absolutely need a professional social media strategy. Stay on top of mind, top of feed, and be in more places. Introducing SocialStackPro.com, a tool for real estate agents that inspires your content with the power of ChatGPT built right in. Try SocialStackPro.com for free. Focus on building your brand, building relationships, and post like a pro with SocialStackPro.com.
Your safety and proper care of your boat in an emergency is crucial. When it comes to on-water assistance, response time is everything. And since 1996, in the Bay or on the Gulf, it's Seato. Seato's Coast Guard licensed captains are on the scene.
In an average of 1 hour or less.
Seato gets members home or back to boating faster. Become a member today at Seato.com or call 850-234-2323.
Are you thirsty?
Oh, yeah, baby.
The Afternoon Underdogs.
Hello.
Well, hello. Call or text now.
Hello.
850-215-6290.
Is anyone there?
ESPN Northwest Florida.
We are back here in the doghouse, riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We are streaming live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Twitch. Not Twitter anymore because Elon Musk decided it's time to pay if you want to do some live streaming. I'm not down with that. It's already bad enough, man. I used to get most of my good guests was from just staying on Twitter, seeing an article. I would go read an article on The Athletic or ESPN. I would go find that author on Twitter, and I would either comment on his statuses, which is what I'm relegated to having to do now, and a lot of the times they just don't respond to you, or I would shoot them a DM, and 9 times out of 10, they're responding back like, hey, I can't do this day, but I can do that day. A little bit tougher with athletes, but with writers and people who cover the sports, that was my in, was with Twitter, and now if someone, gets a little blue check, you have to pay to be able to message those people, and it's like, no, this is still a free country, brother. Like, my goodness. So fantasy football, for all of my people out there who play fantasy football, man, if you want to play with us, we've got a free fantasy football draft that's going to be at PCB Hobby. Shout out to Todd, Bill, Brian, Julia, the whole gang over there at PCB Hobby. When the store closes Sunday night, August 25th, about 6 p.m., we're going to be holding our draft there at 6:30. It's BYOB. We're going to have pizza, and it's going to be a great time. If you've never been a part of a live draft, get in, because I've got 3 different leagues, the Afternoon Underdogs Inside Drive and the Coach James Hale Show League, and then we also have the Champions League. So how you get into that, text your name and your email right now to 850-215-6290. That's 850-215-6290. Text your name and your email and just be ready to show up for the draft August 25th. Here's one of the cool parts is you're going to be in a hobby store. So if you want to buy cards of your players and whatnot after the draft, feel free to. If you see something that catches your eye in the store, feel free to. Brian's going to be there with us, so he'll be able to make sure that he can handle any purchasing and all that kind of stuff. So it's going to be a great time. And also, for those of you who have never been inside PCB Hobby, an opportunity to see the inside of that store and how good of a job they've done with it. So 850-215-6290. We've got LSU Jeff on the line. LSU Jeff, what are you looking forward to the most from the All-Star game tonight?
Paul Skeens.
How many innings do you think he goes? How many innings do you really think he goes? Oh, you're an LSU guy, so this is a big deal for you.
Well, they have to.
It's a big deal for
guys
me too.
around. They have to move those guys around. If they get 3 3 innings in an All-Star game. That's unbelievable.
That's a lot, yeah.
Yeah, so he'll probably just get 2, and then they'll probably pull him, and, everybody gets their own little share of the limelight, which is great. And, of course, it's Trey Morgan and Dylan Cruz are 2 other LSU rookies that are playing, and that's surprising because they're so young.
Yeah. Do you think the NL gets it done tonight, or do you think the AL, I believe they're on a long streak here, do you think the AL wins again?
No, I think that the NL is going to break that streak, but it's going to be close,
I wonder what...
I mean, look at how many teams are good, though, in the AL, I mean, the Orioles, in a different situation than normally are, and look at the Guardians. I mean, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they're playing some great baseball. They've got brothers in the clubhouse. The Guardians are a fun team to kind of keep track of there. And Paul Skeens has been fun, too. I mean, did you really expect, you probably, obviously you watched him at LSU. You might have known a lot about him before he hit the transfer portal from his time over there at Air Force. Did you expect this great of a start for the young man?
I actually did. Because, and here's the clincher about it, it's weird, is sure, I watched him, like, on TV, but when I went up to Omaha, he didn't even pitch. He didn't even pitch in 3 games against the Gators, and we were all clamoring for him. They were yelling his name out in the stands. And, I don't know, he electrified the whole fan base. I mean, we had a lot of hitters, but when it came to pitching, he was the man, And so I kind of did expect this, but maybe not to the degree that he's doing it right now, because it's a whole nother level going from college to, pro.
When for you is this, and now I think you're already on the page that this is the real deal, but we've seen guys come out and have, some torrid starts to their careers, and then it kind of fizzles out instead of sizzling on. To me, it just feels different. It feels like his command is there. It feels like his bad start. I think maybe people would say he's had 2 to 3 bad starts. I don't know. I've watched him start 4 games, and I remember when he was starting against the Braves, and they were, for the first 4 innings or so saying, this is a bad start for Paul Skeens, who gave up like 1 run, which was a leadoff home run to Jared Kelnick, still struck out daggum 9 to 11 people, and still didn't take the loss in the game. So if that's your bad start, I think that this kid, now the velocity is going to be will the velocity turn into injuries, I think, is one of the questions. But I think that this guy's going to be around for the long haul. Now, this isn't a Steven Strasburg case for me.
Okay, so with that being said, I mean, the Pirates, they aren't in the playoff race right now. If they get good, I mean, they've got a couple of other great players, actually.
Yeah. O'Neal Cruz is one of my favorite shortstops in the game.
Yeah, the Cruz great. I love him. I just love him. But, I mean, are they going to pitch his arm out? I mean, it's only if they're critical, like, to make the playoffs will he get to throw his arm out, hopefully. I mean, hopefully the management doesn't do something like that. So it's kind of a good situation where he's at, because the fan base has been electrified up there in Pittsburgh. But they need to be a contender if he's going to throw his arm out, which, I don't know, I say that, but, you never know what's going to happen. But I'll say this much. I've never been more excited about a pitcher since Nolan Ryan.
Oh, wow.
And that's a long time. And, I used to be a Clemens fan, and then the whole steroid thing and him becoming a Yankee kind of turned me away from Clemens, So, I mean, I can't think of another pitcher. I mean, there's Kershaw. There's a bunch of, pitchers in between. Schilling was very exciting, but, I think Skeens is up at that level.
And so far to this point, he's got that image that you would want your pitcher to have. Like he's not necessarily a bad boy, but also at the same time, and again, long careers. Like Roger Clemens didn't start out with a villainous timeline, if you will, but you get a little steroids in you, and I think things change for you. Maybe not necessarily personally, but it feels like once you lie to MLB writers, that's it. You're over and done with at that point.
Yeah. Well, so Maddox, Glavine, and who was the third guy?
Johnny Smoltz. Yep, Smoltz.
Yeah. who's your favorite?
My favorite, actually, of those three. Now, of course, I loved Greg Maddux being able to pinpoint. I loved Glavine just kind of being the lefty, and also that was a different era in pitching, right, where it was about your accuracy more so than your velocity. But I think it would be Smoltzy for me because he, his venture into the bullpen and then becoming the closing pitcher. So for me, it was always Smoltzy. And then if I were to have to rank them, I would go Smoltz, Maddux, Glavine.
Wow. Okay.
What about yours? How would you rank your three favorite pitchers of all time?
Of all time?
Of your, the guys that you witnessed.
And you know what's crazy is when I was a little kid, I saw a little glimpse of Tom Seaver.
Ooh,
but
nice.
I wasn't really a Mets fan,
yeah.
You know? I guess I'm going to have to go, and it's too early to even say Skeens, but I'm definitely going to go Nolan Ryan. I really liked, not Oral Hershiser, but...
I liked Oral growing up.
Yeah, who's the Mexican in the early 80s for the Dodgers?
Fernando Valenzuela?
That's it. That's him. Oh, my God. It was fanatical about him. I mean, he really was. I mean, even though it didn't last, I really enjoyed watching him. And, of course, Clemens, I hate to say it. It's like being an Astros fan, you know?
Yeah,
it's like you're an Astros fan, and then things go wrong, and then you're not an Astros fan.
I tell you, man, if I'm gonna move away from those three Braves, because those guys were a big part of my childhood, and back in the day when my dad would be helping me out with pitching and whatnot, it was always trying to be like Maddux with that pinpoint accuracy. But some of my favorite guys, it always came down to the windup for me. So I'm gonna go with El Duque, Orlando Hernandez, Dontrell Willis. Like, I love these guys for their windups, and that's one of the biggest reasons why I like them. I mean, of course, they had decently successful careers, but one of my, I loved Roger Clemens, man. Like, regardless of him being a villain or not, just throwing the heat. And was it him who had Mike? Yeah, it was Mike Piazza, right? I believe splinters his bat, and then Roger Clemens throws it back at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, give me that, man. Give me that guy on my team. I know that, we get into a little bit of a tussle. I've got someone who's got my back. What'd you think of the home run derby last night?
Actually, I didn't watch it, but I heard y'all talking about the national anthem, and, my heart goes out to that girl. I didn't know who she was before, and my people at work were watching it, and they were like, oh, my God. It's pretty rough. But who won the home run derby?
It was actually Teoscar Hernandez, so the 14th Dodger to ever attempt to win the home run derby, finally getting it done last night. Your favorites last night were Marcell Ozuna. Pete Alonso was the overwhelming favorite. I believe he finished in last place in the first round because they changed it up this year where you had 3 minutes or 40 pitches to hit as many home runs as you can. I just wish that we would go back to 10 outs. And let me tell you something else that grinds my daggum gears. All right, guys, why are we going to wear our regular jerseys for the home run freaking derby and wear these trash, hot garbage uniforms that we're going to be wearing this evening for the All-Star game? Let's switch those roles. Let them wear the fancy uniforms for the home run derby and whatnot, and then you wear your team's cap and then wear your team jersey. Now, Manfred has come out and said that they are exploring those opportunities for next year. I wonder how much it has to do with the same reason why Jaylen Brown feels like he was left off of Team USA, and that's because he's not a Nike athlete. And so I wonder if Nike wants to have their jerseys out there, even though their Nike checkmark, manufactured by Fanatics, for crying out loud, is going to be out there on the field next year. We'll find out, though. It is going to be in Atlanta, and I really do think I'm going to try my hardest to get there for the home run derby and for the All-Star game next year. I know that the tickets are going to be absolutely asinine, but maybe I can figure out a way to do some work for Atlanta or something.
Do the derby tickets and stuff get that expensive for those?
Oh, yeah, brother. Yes, sir, man. In fact, Kyle Albritton, do me a favor. Do some research right now. Go find out. Please. I'm not demanding. I'm asking here. find out how much the tickets were, like the average ticket for the Home Run Derby was last night in Texas. Wright State Chris says Clemens hit Piazza in the head earlier in the year, so that just made that situation a lot better. So you got the National League winning tonight. Give me a score prediction. I'm going 3-2 National League, Jeff.
6-4.
6-4. Oh, I like it, man. Do you feel like that the All-Star game is one of the more competitive All-Star games out there? I feel like they're actually trying here in baseball.
Yeah, I mean, the NBA, they don't play defense in the All-Star game, so they score like 130-something almost every time.
They're like up in the 200s
and
now.
Don't they give like X amount of money to charity based on the points now?
They do, and the way that they do the fourth quarter is a little bit different. So the fourth quarter tends to become a little bit more competitive. But LSU, Jeff, hit the nail on the head. They do not play defense.
Yeah, and then NFL, I mean, it's the week before the Super Bowl. It's just a prelim, and you're missing about a quarter of the good players because they're in the Super Bowl. I mean, it's kind of stupid. And then it's sad, but college football with their, Senior Bowl in Mobile, it's not what it used to be.
Have you been there before to the Senior Bowl?
No, I have not.
Next year, if we give away some tickets, man, try to win some of those. I was able to go 2 years ago, and I'm actually itching to get back. It's a pretty cool experience, especially for the kids, because they get to play on a coaching staff that's kind of led by some NFL coaching staff. So it gets them kind of a start into the world they're about to be living in.
So this past year, they had 3 things that all in the same day on that Saturday.
Yeah.
They had the Senior Bowl at 11 o'clock kickoff. They had a Mardi Gras parade at like 12 o'clock start time, but it was way downtown because South Alabama is where the game was being played.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a free concert, and I think that was downtown also. I think it was like Counting Crows.
Yes. You're right about that. Interesting enough, that two years ago when we went to that on the way back, we got stuck in Mardi Gras traffic. So I would try to route your traffic plans accordingly. LSU, Jeff, we are out of time and about to head to hour number 2. As always, man, it is fun talking some football and all sports with you, my man.
Oh yeah, thanks, guys.
Absolutely. That's LSU, Jeff. I'm David Hayes along with Tyler Bishop. We're the Afternoon Underdogs. You're tuned in to ESPN Northwest Florida. And I'll tell you again how you can play some fantasy football with ESPN Northwest Florida when we get back.
America's team plays here.
Swing and a miss. Struck him out. That's number 10.
The Atlanta Braves on ESPN Northwest Florida. Charlie Morton, Max Fried, and Chris Sale lead the Braves' dominant pitching rotation.
That's 18 up, 18 down.
Sponsored by Panama City Toyota, LS Agency Insurance, Bestway Portable Buildings, PCB Hobby, and ESPN Northwest Florida.
Got him swinging, strike 3.
Good afternoon. This is Joanna with your latest forecast on ESPN Northwest Florida. The rest of the day, possible thunderstorms and partly sunny and a temperature of 89 with wind 8 to 12 miles per hour out of the southwest. Mostly clear skies tonight and quite warm near 82. Partly sunny and a likelihood of thunderstorms and 89 tomorrow. This is your Tuesday's weather sponsored by Mid-South Lumber, the best little lumber yard in Panama City. Thank you for keeping that dial at ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Hello, this is Rick Vossen with RV of Panama City, your local Stormore portable building dealer, located at 2241 East Baldwin Road. Shopping for a garage, portable building, cabin? We build them anywhere from 8 to 16 foot wide, 10 feet to 60 feet long. We can do insulation, electricity, transom dormers, thermal windows. Come, let's customize a building together. Rick Vossen, Stormore Portable Building Dealer, Panama City.
WGSX Lynn Haven, WVLQ Port St. Joe. Powered by Panama City Toyota.
And that's out of the ballpark.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
Love a great deal? This is the big one. The Big One sales event is going on now, and you can get 3.99% APR plus 90 days until you make your first payment on Camry's new elevated design. Make every drive count and get 2.99% on the stylish Corolla. Rule every adventure and get 2.99% on a new RAV4. Or enjoy the power and get 1.99% on the tough Tundra. Come see us for the big one at Panama City Toyota.
Offer ends July 31st first, visit PanamaCityToyota.com for details.
From Tyndall Air Force Base to the Hathaway Bridge, we're live and local. It's the Afternoon Underdogs. 104.3 ESPN Northwest Florida.
It's hour number 2 of the Afternoon Underdogs. You're tuned into ESPN Northwest Florida. Do you play fantasy football? Would you like to play some fantasy football with some of the hosts here at ESPN Northwest Florida? Now, I know all of you guys love Coach Hale. You love Ryan Mulvey. You love me. I can't guarantee you guys that Coach Hale's going to be there or not. He's not the biggest fantasy footballer out there. I can guarantee you, though, that Ryan Mulvey is going to be there. Maybe we can finagle Jay Henley into playing again. So a lot of the guys from the Afternoon Underdogs will be in that league. Tyler, you going to play with us this year?
Yeah, I'll be there.
All right, then. We'll make that happen August 25th. So if you would like to play, we've gotten 2 more entries in today. We got like 11 on the show yesterday. I felt like I was promoting it like every 5 minutes. So if you want to meet us, if you want to meet us at PCB Hobby August 25th, send your name and your email over to 850-215-6290. For Dominique and Brian, I've got you in, so no need to text any further. I will shoot out emails. Honestly, I won't even shoot out emails until we get there, because what ends up happening is life pops up and people aren't able to make it. So I just try to relieve that stress. And once I see you guys there at the draft, then we'll start putting your emails in, send you the invites, get you to the right league and all that stuff. And it's fun, man. We'll have some prizes and all of that good stuff for end of the season. It's going to be a great time at PCB Hobby. If you've never been to that shop, I would say it's good enough reason just to sign up and play some fantasy football with us. So in the break, ACC prediction. We'll do what when we have time, we'll get to what we predicted for the Big 12. And then we'll go over the ACC later.
Just like last year, I was like, we got to start like 3 months out to actually get to some of these predictions.
But I do have a couple of things that I want to get into. So in the break, me and you were talking about like what percentage do we think, what level do these professional athletes play at in their all-star games? Now, before we get to that, Joe Burrow had a great idea when eventually the league is going to go to an 18-game season, a 19-week season. He proposed give each team like 2 bye weeks. You would have 2 bye weeks, but you would also have an all-star week right there in the middle of the season. So I'm assuming if a 19-week season, like in between week 9 and 10 or somewhere around that area, and you would have the Pro Bowl right there in the middle of the year. Now, football's a different game. And they are not playing tackle football anymore, not like they were really playing tackle football before. But what do you think of that proposal there from Joe Burrow?
I like the idea. It is interesting because, like, now if you're having to travel for the Pro Bowl, like, you're missing out on that time with the team as far as game planning and rehab and all the things you do have to do at the team facilities. I think an interesting thing, I don't know. I mean, it is a really cool thing. I'd be curious to see. I'd like to hear, even if it's anonymous, like what do GMs and head coaches think? I'd love to hear a kind of a poll on that. Because as much as we're football fans, we can't even fathom the logistics that go into running an NFL franchise as far as the scheduling and how much time goes into the game planning, how much time goes into the install and rehab of an athlete. You know, we've kind of gotten a sneak peek into it between Hard Knocks and like the quarterback and the receiver shows Netflix have done. Like, you kind of see some of the stuff those guys go through, but even that's just the quick version of it, you know? So I love the idea, like adding some meaning to the Pro Bowl a little bit, making it more involved in the season and giving the players an extra break, which 90% of them would get, which it would be huge.
And I think they need that where we're at in the game
100%.
today. And here's the other thing that they need. They want to continue to I love the idea, by the way, of having the All-Star game in the middle of the season. I think that you've got so many guys already kind of clocked out by the end of the season. And even if you keep it with the flag football, and I like the idea of the games that they have going on and kind of using those as points and whatnot. So if they want to stick there, that's cool. But I think that you're not eliminating the Super Bowl participants from the Pro Bowl. So there's that. So I really like the idea, but I think where we're at now, you need 2 bye weeks. I think that lengthens the season for the fan. Here's the other thing. We keep on for the first 5-6 weeks of the season. Why are there so many injuries? Because they're not playing preseason games and they're not hitting like in the way that they used to. And so I'm not saying that they need to be hitting harder and all of that stuff, but the body, it takes time for it to kind of get used to the trauma and force that's being put on it. And I think that that's a direct correlation to the lack of preseason games that we're playing.
You're going from 0 to 60 now. It used to be you kind of revved up because it would be they wouldn't play the first game, they'd play a little of the second, a little of the third, and then like half the fourth game, kind of gearing up for the season to, and now we only have now you get a lot of guys that aren't playing any. And you get a lot, the rookies or the roster bubble guys or the guys who are playing a lot of these snaps. And it's just not, it's helping them get some tape. It's helping them develop and hopefully catch on other teams if it's not with the team they're currently on. But it's not helping the guys that are there already who are deemed too valuable to get hurt. But then it's kind of being counterintuitive because they are getting hurt.
Yeah.
And I think a second bye week already would be great. And I think and then you stretch the season out a little bit longer, so you get an extra Monday night game, you get an extra Thursday night game, you get an extra Sunday night game. All these primetime games that you charge these big dollars to the advertisers. It seems like a win-win for everybody.
Right, there you go, man. And then you could just steal some more from us with Sunday Ticket, and then give it back to us on the back end. You stream the Pro Bowl on like Paramount Plus, so now we have to buy another streaming service to watch that. But they'll probably pick some new one that hasn't even been invented yet, like NSPE.
They're only streaming it on Twitter, and you have to be a premium member. You have to buy a blue check mark for the month to watch it.
Oh my gosh, don't say that. Elon Musk, my goodness, man. Give us our streaming capabilities back. But for now, it's on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And again, for our fantasy footballers out there, 850-215-6290. Text your name and your email if you're available for our live draft, August 25th at 6:30 p.m. All right, so what we were talking about in the break is the level, like the percentage that players actually play to for their all-star game. So with Major League Baseball, you have just a regular baseball game. They play the Midsummer Classic. For football now, we used to have the Pro Bowl, which you go back to the Sean Taylor days, and it was about as realistic.
When he wrecked the punter that one game, that was phenomenal.
You've got the NBA All-Star Game, which they play 3 quarters of just, hey, we're going to heave this thing back and forth from half court. If we're not shooting it from half court, we're going to do alley-oops from 3 quarters of the court, and then we'll tighten up in the fourth quarter. And yes, each quarter, the winning team gets a percentage, a certain amount of money that they get to give to their charity. So these things are normally for good causes. And then you have the NHL, which has a 3v3 tournament between the 4 divisions. So it's very it's interesting to me. The way that I would put it is I would say that the hockey players are at an output of about 73%. They're giving about 73%. No, wait till I get down the line here, okay? I would say they're about 73%. I would say Major League Baseball is around, I don't want to put them too high. I think that I would say that the pitchers are around 84%. They're throwing at about 84% because you can't take too much off, not just because of how you're going to look or how you're going to perform, but I think for injury-wise, like it's hard as a pitcher to just
you gotta
toss it in there. Exactly. So I would say that your pitchers are around 84%, depending on who it is that they're going up against, because there are still those friendly rivalries in the game where it's like, I don't want to let this guy get a hit on me. You know what I mean? And so that then in turn has the batter in the batter's box going from where I had him around 70. I'll put baseball players around 77%, because baseball's not as tough as what hockey is, right? And I think that those guys do still have an amount of pride that they want to win those games. So I'll say baseball players around 77%, the pitchers at 84%, hockey players at 73%, NBA players around 11%, and NFL. For the games that are not flag football, I say that they give about 40% effort. For the flag football game, around 20%.
No,
they actually try.
I like a lot of those percent. See, I would think, basketball, I'd give them a little bit more credit because I feel like they are trying to make shots, which is half of basketball, right? Is you're shooting to make it.
Yeah.
So I feel like, I think it's not very serious, but I think there's effort there because they are trying. You know, like is Draymond Green going to be shooting threes in a normal game? Probably not.
All right.
Is he going to? But it's still part of the game, I guess. But it's just a little bit more nonsensical, I guess. Baseball makes sense as being the highest percentage because kind of there's probably less room for injury there. It's not as physical as football and hockey.
It's not as physical as really any of the other sports.
I mean, our guy's going to be diving into a wall to catch a ball? Probably not. You know, you're not trying to save a home run like that in an all-star game.
You still see kind of stolen bases and diving plays, but then also you'll see one that's like, oh man, if that was regular season, he would have dove for that.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't blame a guy and I think hockey players are just wired differently. Those dudes are just different in a great way.
Yeah,
like I see those guys taking that pretty seriously. So I like your percentages. Football, we've seen it when it was just the Pro Bowl game. Like those guys were giving like 20% effort at best.
Would you say it's better now as flag football? Like not a better product because we're so used to flag football, but would you say that you enjoy the product that you're seeing?
I think seeing all the different skills competitions is different. Like that was a thing they kind of had like the late 90s, early 2000s. That kind of grew in popularity, then it kind of went away, and now it's back a little bit. I mean,
I like the skill competitions from back in the day, though, because it's like they felt more directly correlated with the game.
I'd much rather see NFL athletes like trying to win the most accurate passer, fastest man, this, that, or whatever, as opposed to them watching them halfway play a game.
Yeah.
You know, and the flag football makes it a little more fun because it takes some of the realness out of it. So it's like, okay, this is more of a game as opposed to a real game. And so I think that helps a little bit with the product on the field. But like I said, I'd much rather see Patrick Mahomes and Joe Burrow and Josh Allen like really competing to try to win like the most accurate pass or whatever. I'd much rather see stuff like that than players given 26% on a BS game that nobody cares about.
So we are in the middle of the SEC Media Days. I was going to line up Ole Miss Evie to talk with us. She basically runs the rebelwalk.com. She's live there in Dallas. Have you seen anything? Has anything stood out to you from SEC Media Days? Georgia went today, didn't they?
Georgia was, Kirby was on today. I mean, there's Saban getting denied access because he didn't have media credentials. Yeah, that was kind of a whole like spoof thing for a little bit there.
And I heard him talking with Matt Berry. So essentially, he had the credential on. Then he went to go change his tie, and just forgot that. But it's still so wild. So that's what I'm saying. Is like, all right, I get it for every other guy. Like even if they're famous on Twitter or whatnot, but this guy for the last 20 some years, it feels like, has been a part of the SEC Media Days. I know that y'all just have it uprooted your entire crew there of security for SEC Media Days. Now, maybe it's different because they're over there in Dallas. Maybe so. But it's like, look at the face, man. Look at the face.
I'm going to say it. Yeah. Did you see that the guy who was the security guard used to be a former 4-star recruit?
Oh,
I didn't read the full story, so I don't know if maybe Saban chose not to recruit him, and maybe there's some bad blood there. But yeah, apparently he was a former 4-star. I wish I'd read the full story. I could have talked a little bit more about that. But no, it's always fun seeing some of the stuff coming out. Shane Beamer said that South Carolina football program doesn't have a ceiling. That's an interesting amount of pressure to put on yourself in a year where your schedule was tough and you're not projected to be particularly great. Like why would you put extra pressure on yourself when you don't have to?
If South Carolina ain't got a ceiling, then I don't think many teams do.
They ain't got a ceiling because it's right there next to its floor. It's one level. There ain't no upstairs. It's one singular plane.
It's closing on me.
But yeah, I mean, some interesting comments. And then some of the pictures coming out of the coaches riding the bull or posing on top of a bull. Well, I sent the one with Shane Beamer.
Okay,
Brian Kelly came out and had a similar one. Luckily, I haven't seen one floating out there of Kirby Smart yet. So, man, that's just an awkward look for coaches.
You know what I've liked? Georgia, the last couple of years, has had some players with their driving, right? And today, for media days, Kirby Smart didn't shy away from the fact that there's. I like how he put it. I'm defending my program, but I'm not being defensive.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And he knows that there's issues, and they've done things like what are some of the things he said that no other school has done, which there's no proof necessarily, but making the guys when they get in trouble, or sometimes once they first come onto campus, they got to take the defensive driving course. And they're also, I mean, these days they get them driving services and everything like that. And then also he brought up that the NIL collectives are finding them, and I think that that's one of those situations. Hey, you're in a brand new world. You're in a whole new world with fame that you probably never ever came close to. So the trouble, the temptation is going to be there for the young men. And it's tough. Obviously, you can't just go around. The brunt of the blame is going to go to the head coach. I just thought that he did a great job of handling those questions.
Now, if you ever get a chance to listen to Kirby Smart speak in general, the guy is just sharp. I mean, everything that comes out of his mouth is calculated. There's a reason for everything he says, and he's just a great guy to listen to talk in any circumstance. I highly recommend, if you ever get a chance to, listen to some of his speeches. I mean, obviously the thing was going to come up, and I don't blame people for talking about it, but like at a certain point, what can he do? He can't. Yeah. I mean, he can't require guys to not drive. Nobody's going to. Like say he kicks the guy off the team, that's great. Is anybody going to give Alabama crap for picking up these guys?
Yeah, right.
That's Clemson.
Yep,
so it's
exactly.
So he's going to kick him off. What is it really going to accomplish? And with all due respect, these kids know what can happen if you drive recklessly. You could kill yourself or somebody else. Mm-hmm. That's the bottom line, highest, most worst thing that can happen. If the fear of that doesn't stop them, suspending them for a game isn't going to stop them.
No.
It's not. I mean, and the thing is they don't have repeat offenders. It's not the same guy doing it typically. And you get 100 college-age kids with a lot of very fast cars. It's going to happen. I mean, we've had Need for Speed video games out for decades. Yeah. We've had 38 Fast and Furious movies made, but you don't expect kids to want to do that kind of stuff. Like, and I'm not trying to excuse it, but I'm saying, like, it's part of our culture where racing has become a thing. Like,
we glorify things, and then when people start doing them, it's like, well, why are you doing that? You know better than that. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, but so, this little voice up here in my head is saying, it's going to be all right. You won't get caught.
and Carson Beck was asked about it today. He's like, yeah, I drive a Porsche. I know it goes fast. I just don't drive like an idiot.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, that's all you can have. Like, that's all you can ask for them to do. And like I said, it is what it is. If Georgia was habitually having guys getting arrested for assault and battery, breaking and entering, drugs, all that kind of stuff, like, I'll be like, oh, there's a culture issue. I don't want to try to downplay the seriousness of reckless driving, but if that's the absolute worst thing that's happening, like, it's hard to say it's a cultural thing as much as, like, guys just need to make smarter decisions.
Yeah, that's a good point. And kind of we've seen issues in other programs before where those issues are nowhere near as light as, and again, not excusing or justifying reckless driving, but when you're harming other people, which you could very well do with reckless driving, drunk driving, all of that, no doubt about it. That's a weapon in and of itself, a vehicle is. But yes, man, there's been some other situations at programs, and I like what you bring up there, no repeat offenders to that point. So we'll see how using the NIL collectives work out. And again, that's the only thing that you can hope for, is that the kids don't repeat the mistakes, because at that point, that's where it becomes insanity, right?
Yeah, no, like I said, I get why Georgia's got a little bit bigger scope on it because of the accident that happened, 2 years ago, or 22 months, whatever it's been now. And I completely get it. But at a certain point, it's like, got the defensive driving, you got the state troopers that come, you got people that come and talk to them, you fine them, you make them run, you make them do this and that, whatever. But it's like at a certain point, like, what else? Because you know what I'm saying, like, what else can you do as a head coach?
Right, no doubt about it. Also want to get your thoughts on FSU and Clemson. What we've been talking about this for years, and until they get that ACC media rights deal, not the whole deal, but what's going on in the court system figured out, I don't think we're going to have anything figured out. But we have seen the SEC and the Big Ten come out and essentially say, we don't, I'll put it like this in a nice, polite way. We don't got room for you right now, which I would like to see. Like, the SEC is not up to the same number as what the Big Ten is. I personally would love to see Florida State and Clemson there. But what do you think is next for Florida State and Clemson after they get all of this kind of ironed out?
So,
which your thought process might change by the time it gets actually ironed out.
So I would say for any Florida State or Clemson fan, hoping that the ACC thing is resolved any sooner than, I wouldn't get your hopes up. I've seen
3 years.
I would not bet on it. I would not bet on them being out of the ACC in the next 3 years.
Okay.
There's just no benefit for anybody else in the ACC besides Clemson or Florida State to allow them to get out without paying those huge numbers.
Yeah.
And from the few lawyer football fans that I've seen talk about it, like, it's not a great case for Florida State or Clemson to get out. So it doesn't look likely. It's really interesting at that point. Does the SEC want to play defense, or are they going to allow the Big Ten to play offense kind of in that media share? Because the SEC doesn't need to lock down Tallahassee and Clemson, South Carolina as media markets. They're already there. They're already established. But do you want to allow the Big Ten kind of into SEC country? Yeah. That's going to be the biggest thing for them to decide. Florida State's a great brand. They bring in great TV revenue. Clemson's been a great program for the last 10 years. They bring in pretty good revenue. Do you want to allow a Big Ten to be the full national, deep South, up north, out west? Do you want to allow them that access, or do you want to make the play like kind of what we saw a few years back with Missouri and Texas A&M coming in? They were more interested in markets than programs. And granted, Missouri's had a little bit of success. Texas A&M's had a few blips, but they haven't really brought a ton in football. I'm not going to say any other sport. Obviously Texas A&M just won the College World Series.
Tennessee did, but.
Or they made the College World Series.
They got close though.
They made the College World Series, but they've had some success in the smaller
their
sport.
Coach Slajnagel all the way over there to Texas.
But so it's like, but do you want to go after the established programs that are already there, but they're not bringing a whole lot of newness?
Yeah,
and it'll be real interesting to see what they decide to do.
That's a good point. And you've also heard the Big 12, or at least I've heard that the Big 12 would be interesting in bringing 6 teams from the ACC, which would all but kill the ACC at that point.
The Big 12. I mean, it's going to be interesting, but does the ACC
eat the Big 12
live, or does the Big 12? Because only one of them can live. And which one does
you
it
don't
end up
think
being?
both of them could live in unison as a Power 4 setup as we have here? Because at that point, you almost go Tier 1, SEC, and Big 10. And then even if you add Florida State and Clemson, now if you add 6 teams to the Big 12, I think that you can maybe, but who else is over there in the ACC that's going to make the Big 12 comparable with the SEC and the Big 10?
Whoever the third conference is going to be a step down. And that's not even up for debate in football. Football,
What if it was Florida State, and we know this isn't going to happen because Notre Dame and the rights deal that they have of their own with NBC, but Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame, and let's say Stanford gets back to Christian McCaffrey type days.
0%. You're telling me, so Florida State,
Tiger Woods of football comes to
there's 0, like Florida State, Clemson, Notre Dame, and who's the fourth?
Well, they're
Utah?
talking about 6 teams.
Well, no,
but Utah's already in the Big 12.
Well, I'm saying if they were to merge, who would be their top 4?
Well,
those 3, and is it Utah? Is it K-State? Is it North Carolina, Virginia Tech?
I think that we've got to give our due diligence to Oklahoma State, right? They've been there in the conference the longest. I say that now Avery Johnson works out. Kansas State is another team who's been vying for like top dog status in Big 12.
I guess the biggest question, with the number 4 team in the Big 12, whoever you want to name it, assuming Florida State, Clemson, and Notre Dame are the top 3, is the number 4 team, would they be the number 4 team in either the Big 10 or the SEC? No,
they wouldn't. So not even really close. But see, I feel like in the Big 10, though, there's still, all right, you add Oregon, USC and UCLA. I wouldn't be surprised to see those teams finishing. How many teams are in the Big 10? Is it 18?
Yeah.
All right, so with 18 teams, I wouldn't be surprised to see USC finishing 11th. I'm just saying, defensively speaking, they're going from a conference where they can get away with things offensively and not necessarily having the defense. I mean, last year, Caleb Williams saved them a couple of wins as well, And
they got to 7.
And they got to, exactly. So that's why I'm saying it might be a tougher road, and they don't got Caleb Williams this year. I forget who the quarterback's going to be.
Moss.
Yeah, Moss. I feel like it's
I want to say it's a double M.
Yeah. So with that, I just and then UCLA, really, what do they bring? Washington, are they? Does Jed Fish bring them right back to where they were last year? I highly doubt it.
Too much.
I think Oregon. I wouldn't be surprised to see just because of what we've seen from Ryan Day in big games. I wouldn't be surprised to see Oregon win the Big 10 year 1. They're the Texas of the new conference expansion, if you will.
The problem is you could argue that Ryan Day, for all his faults, is a better big game coach than Dan Lanning.
Okay.
That's the problem. Is like neither of them are particularly proven big game head coaches yet. Yeah. And granted, Ryan Day's a little
had more big game opportunities, though?
Ryan Day.
Yeah.
But again, Oregon probably shouldn't have lost to Washington twice last year.
Yeah.
Probably shouldn't have lost to Washington the year before. They probably shouldn't have lost to Oregon State the year before. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of.
You see, Washington, that team, that squad that they had looked good throughout the college football playoff.
Yeah, I'm not saying, I don't even mean that as but like, I feel like beating a good team twice should be harder to do than Washington made it look.
Very fair. Very fair.
And maybe that's a credit to Washington and DeBoer. So maybe that's more. Maybe I should be giving them more credit than giving some crap to. But Dan Lanning needs to win a big game before he gets credit for winning a big game.
Yeah, there you go. That's
it's one of those, like, is no credit better than bad credit type situations, like proving you can't do it versus
on who you're asking. Which bureau is it that's lining up your credit report? You're riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. This is ESPN Northwest Florida. We're going to be talking Big 12 when we get back. We've got our predictions locked and loaded. I don't think that they're changing. We'll go over some of our top teams, maybe some dark horses and all of that good stuff, and then maybe get started on what we're thinking about the ACC. If you want to call or text us, the number is 850-215-6290. This is the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
ESPN Northwest Florida. We're taking the inside drive.
I follow a lot of soccer and basketball on Instagram, and you have some of these NBA players that are like, whoa, man, the Europeans, they're working on fundamentals at a young age, where we're just going to tournaments and playing these games. They're really learning the game inside out before they start.
Join Ryan Mulvey.
Thank you very little.
Middays 11 to 1 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday evening. As we head into tonight, clear skies and a low of 82 with a light breeze at 6 miles per hour coming out of the south-southwest. For tomorrow morning, light showers and likely thunderstorms and a temp near 88. In the afternoon and evening, a possibility of thunderstorms and mostly sunshine and a high around 88. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Discover the most convenient way to buy men's clothing. Pierce Bespoke. Whether it's custom or casual, they come to you to take the hassle out of shopping. If buying off the rack doesn't work for you, let Pierce Bespoke show you how to get the perfect fit. Call Pierce Bespoke to schedule your appointment. 251-278-8270. That's 251-278-8270.
Your biggest investment is your home. Protect it while also improving its appearance with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. We have sand, mulch, gravel, or lay down decorative stone, all available for pickup and delivery. Discover your dream landscape with Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Imagine the moment you proudly pull up to your home that you've worked so hard for, enhanced by quality mulch, decorative stones, and more. Let's make it happen today. Request a quote online at earthworkspc.com or swing by the office at 2005 Industrial Drive. Love the land you live on.
He likes to lift weights in a parking lot and eat Weight Gainer 3000.
I'm really starting to feel out nasty.
David Hayes is part of the Afternoon Underdogs on ESPN Northwest Florida.
Doghouse, riding with the Afternoon Underdogs. I'm David Hayes, along with my good buddy Tyler Bishop. No Max Delight in today for your Minute with Max. But when he gets back, we'll have him throw in some shade at Florida State fans, as he normally tends to do. And we just tried to fill those shoes for Wildcard Delight. And this afternoon, he's up there with his brother and his dad playing some golf right about now in northwestern Wisconsin. Probably getting some of that spotted cow up there. He got you some of that too, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. If he didn't get at least hole in one, though, he should have called in.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just a waste of a day.
No doubt, man. Rick Tide chiming in. Good afternoon. Go Braves. If you would like to play fantasy football with us, we've got our draft, our live fantasy football draft. That's going to be at PCB Hobby on August 25th, which is a Sunday. And it's a live draft. If you've never partook in one of those, you need to join in. We've got one coming up in 12 days, right? The auction draft.
Late July.
If you've got some buddies who are hardcore about this stuff, I would definitely recommend an auction draft. It's one of the most fun drafts you can do out there.
I would say only do an auction draft if you could do it live.
Yeah.
Do not waste your time doing online.
So the first time I ever did one with was live, and then the next year COVID hit. So they didn't want to do a live one. So because not everyone knew each other or whatnot. Yeah. So we ended up doing that one online, and that thing took like an hour. I mean, maybe a little bit longer than that, but there's not the same battle.
Yeah,
exactly. There's a lot of gamesmanship. Yeah, with the draft. So real quick, we've got Travis on the line. He's got something for you, Tyler. Travis, what you got, brother?
Man, it's actually kind of funny too, but I was playing college football, and I know you're a Georgia fan. I smacked around Georgia a little bit with a 69-0 win with Florida. And it was funny, on my last touchdown, it was like two minutes left in the game. It just shows that they added some humor in it. They said, well, we got breaking news, another touchdown.
I hope you at least scored again and went for 2 at that point. I mean, if you're going to go 69, you might as well just keep rubbing it in hard there at that point.
Well, they had I got 2 safeties on them.
Well,
2 safeties. ETN, because, I hate that guy now. But ETN's had 10 rushes for 20 yards. The total rushing yards was like -61.
All right, Travis, we're done talking box score here. Hey, but my man, thank you so much for the call, all right, bud?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Yep, absolutely. I know we're going to be getting a lot of calls for the rest of the year from Travis when it comes to college football, and that's fine. We've got a forum here for you guys to brag for a little bit. Real quick, that story was not the same for me last night. Started out with UCF, made my non-conference schedule, Georgia, Alabama, Texas. I felt like I was playing pretty good against Georgia for the first half. They came out like some dogs in the second half, and I actually fared better against Alabama. Only lost to them by 5 points, and then Texas absolutely drugged me.
I mean, if you're not taking this opportunity your first game, like putting on extra JV mode and just running the score up on an opponent that's been
on
beating
All-American, man.
You might as well let out some frustration. If you're a Florida fan, you ain't got a whole lot else going for you right now.
That is a good point.
So, hey, take your licks in while you can, because come Jacksonville, it won't be as pretty for you.
And Travis is going to be a part of our Champions League in the fantasy football draft here. So how it works, guys, is we've got 3 different leagues: the Afternoon Underdogs, the Inside Drive, the Coach James Hale Show League, and then you also have the Champions League. The Champions League this year is going to be up to 16 teams, and how it works is top 4 from each league comprise the Champions League. So there's some pride on the line here as well. If you'd like to play fantasy football with the Afternoon Underdogs, the Inside Drive, and the Coach James Hale Show, text in your name and your email to 850-215-6290. All right, it's time. Do you have your Big 12 predictions with you?
Been waiting all day.
Oh, man.
They've been ready since about 3:40 this afternoon.
And this is another reason why it's just easier to do them live on air, because it's like, as long as we sound interested in the games, maybe people will be interested in it. But let's just kind of go through each school and go through their record, and if there's any games that stood out to you. We'll start here with Arizona, and I had Arizona going 5-7 this year. Yeah. What's your rebuttal there?
I got them at 8-4.
8-4.
They've got a great quarterback wide receiver duo. They had a lot of hype coming out of last year, and I know the coaching change may really throw that off. But I mean, their schedule is relatively favorable. They, outside of K-State and Utah, they could probably beat it. I'm not gonna say they will. I've actually got them using to UCF and Houston, actually. I think kind of threw Houston a bone a little bit as I was going through there. But they're a wild card team. I mean, they've got some of the talent back from last year's team who really exceeded expectations, but that coaching change makes them a hard team to kind of predict going into the year.
Yeah, so for me, it starts off, they get their first 2 wins. They've got New Mexico and NAU, not in
Northern Arizona.
Okay, that sounds
that would make
right.
sense.
Then you've got Kansas State. I'm on the Avery Johnson gravy train.
Same.
All right, you got me onto the train, and I'm just kind of bandwagoning
I'm the conductor of that bad boy right
there
now.
you go. So I'm riding that train. Then they go to Utah. I don't think they're winning there. You gave Houston a bone. I'm giving Texas Tech somewhat of a bone as well. BYU, I got them beating BYU on the road there, but that's only because they've lost 3 games to that point. Then you go to Colorado, and that's a difference maker, right? Because for me, now I'll say that my Colorado record is not, outrageous. Can't wait to hear yours. Then I've got them losing to West Virginia, a team I'm high on in UCF, and then they win 2 of their last 3 games, Houston and Arizona State, and then they fall to TCU.
Yeah, like I said, I was maybe a little bit, like I said, they're just a super hard team to kind of predict with the coaching change, but I know what they've got coming back on offense. And in the Big 12, we've seen it before. You get hot at the right time. And the schedule is just manageable. I mean, there's so many teams in the Big 12. We kind of talked about this last week, talking about contenders and pretenders. Like, there's a couple teams kind of ahead of the pack, but outside of that next group of like 10 teams could go either way on any given Saturday.
Yeah,
and it's going to make it a really fun conference to watch that way.
That's so true, man. And when I'm sitting here looking at
I'm sitting here doing coin
records,
flips on some of these.
I mean, seriously, what do you got the Sun Devils going? Year 2 of Kenny Dillingham taking over for Herm Edwards. Herm Edwards in his final year went 3-9. Kenny Dillingham in year 1 went 3-9. Do you think it gets better or worse for him?
I got him 3-9.
3-9. So it's status quo.
I mean, they do play
the epitome of consistency.
They play the bigger heavier hitters, kind of based on my predictions. In Utah, Oklahoma State, UCF, and Kansas State, they play those 4 out of 5 games in a 6-week stretch. You know, I've got Arizona being above average team at 8-4. So I mean, that's a lot of losses for them towards the end of the season.
Wait, you said, you got Arizona going 8-4. I've got Arizona State taking a step back this year. Right, not good. 2-10. I've got them losing. Now they start out against Wyoming. I've got them getting. You got them losing.
No, I gave them a dub, but it's Wyoming. Wyoming's one of those teams. Like if they came out and beat Arizona State, would I be super surprised? No.
Did you? So what do you have them with Texas State? I've got Texas State winning that game.
I've got them beating Texas State.
Texas State, I think, is one of those teams that you're going to have to watch out
like
for.
Like UTSA was a year or two ago.
Yes, exactly. Okay. Mississippi State, I'm going SEC bias there.
Same.
That game could be closer. It honestly could. But who is it over there? Mississippi State.
Jeff Levy now. I mean, and he's really kind of overhauling. You know, Zach Arnett was kind of overhauling the air raid. Now Levy's kind of overhauling it a little bit. So it's interesting to see how they come out looking this year.
Then again, like you mentioned with Houston, and I've already mentioned with Texas Tech, kind of giving them a bone. So I'm taking Texas Tech there. Then, yeah, I mean, there's nothing else to talk about. Oh, I throw Arizona State a game, a bone, if you will. November 23rd, beating BYU, and I wouldn't be surprised if that one's wrong and they actually go 1-11.
I mean, I gave him a bone against Cincinnati. I'm not a big Cincinnati believer this year. I've actually got them finishing the worst in the conference.
Okay. Oh, you got Cincinnati finishing worst in the conference. Shout out Wright State Chris, my mans. Baylor and the Bears. Dave Aranda essentially coaching for his life right here, or for his job, I should say, rather. What record do you have Baylor and the Bears going?
If he's coaching for his job, I'm not sure he's got one next year. I got him at 5-7.
I'm close to you there. 7-5.
Okay.
7-5. They start out the year against Tarleton State. I've got them winning there. I don't even know what state Tarleton State is in.
Tarleton, obviously.
Oh yeah, there you go. Then I've got them taking an L to Utah, getting a win against the Service Academy and Air Force. Who knows though? You never know with those. Losing to Colorado, taking down BYU, losing to Iowa State. Then they get that little bye week, 2 losses in a row before I throw them a bone and let them get a win against TCU. And then they finish out the year with 3 straight wins. 2 road games in a row, West Virginia, Houston, and then finishing out with a win against Kansas, because I'm not so sure about Kansas after the 7th week of the season.
That's fair. I may have been a little higher on Kansas than I should have been, and you know, that could change a game or two here and there, but I had them losing 2 of the last 3, so that was where the change really kicked in there.
All right, BYU. This is a team that is really hard to predict because, as people bring up all the time, these are grown men on this team. They've been there for a while. They, go on missionary trips and all of that kind of stuff. So you would like to think that they've, got a good head on their shoulders. What do you got BYU at?
4-8.
Ding, 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 ding,
Let's
ding.
Go. I don't know if it's good or bad.
Yeah, there's really no game on this schedule that kind of stands out to me. I think that their benefit is that the final 3 games of the season all seem winnable. So there is that.
They're all winnable for sure. Kansas, Arizona State, and Houston, but
are we too high on SMU? Maybe,
but I don't know. They've got a little bit of steam as kind of being a dark horse ACC contender. So yeah. I did throw SMU a couple bones on because they were on this schedule 2 or 3 times.
Tarleton State is in Stephenville, Texas, so you do research when I don't ask for it, because I did kind of figure that they were in Texas going off the logo of the helmet here, but when I was asking about the home run derby prices, which to get in,
160 get in the door price.
It's not too shabby. That's get in the door though. That's not having a good seat in the outfield or anything like that. All right, Cincinnati, you've got them as the worst team in the Big 12. I've got them going to a bowl game possibly at 6-6.
Well, all right. One of us is going to be really right. One of us is going to be really wrong, I guess.
The first, so
they win beat Towson and Miami of Ohio.
You got them losing to Pitt.
Yep.
I've got them beating Houston. I don't know, man. I don't know about Houston this year. Really haven't heard much about him. Wait, who is the coach over there?
Willie Fritz now out of Tulane.
And once you remember that last week,
I gave them a little bit. I do believe in Willie Fritz as a coach, and I don't know how great the situation is over there in Houston from what he inherited from Dana Holgerson.
Yeah.
And but I don't have Houston with a great record. I'm not buying Cincinnati with Satterfield.
All right, let's go over some of the teams that I don't really have doing very much and see how you feel about them. Houston, what do you have them going?
7-5.
I've got them as a bottom dweller with Arizona State at 2-10. Nothing really stands out to me about their schedule per se. Let's go Iowa State. Let's get a few more knocked out so we can spend some time on some of the top teams, the contenders, if you will. What do you got Iowa State going?
6-6.
Same right there with you. Kansas?
9-3.
9-3. That would be, I would like to see. I think all of us enjoy seeing a basketball school do well. I've got them going 6-6, going bowling. But yeah, so it was.
I may have been a little generous with Kansas.
I've got them beating Illinois.
Yeah.
I've got them really starting out 3-0, but then
I've got them starting out 6-0.
Oh, so beating West Virginia on the road, TCU. That's another team.
I've got TCU and Arizona State as kind of bottom dwellers, so that made it a little bit easier for me.
All right, let's go to Texas Tech. What do you got them at?
8-4.
I got them at 7-5.
Okay,
so we're close right there, same ballpark. TCU, you've got them as a bottom dweller. What is a bottom? 3-9. So, and what was Cincinnati again?
2-10.
2-10. All right, yeah. So I've got two 2-10 teams on here. I've got Texas Tech at
TCU.
TCU. I got TCU at 8-4.
Okay, well, one of us going to be really right, one of us going to be
Yeah, and that's taking a loss to back-to-back losses to UCF and then SMU.
Same.
And then, but Arizona and Cincinnati to kind of close out the season there. West Virginia, what do you got them at?
6-6.
I've got them at 8-4, losing to start the season out against Penn State. Then I've got them winning the backyard brawl against Pitt. Nothing else really stands out to me. Baylor is another team that I'm just like, again, we brought that up earlier.
I feel like Baylor, West Virginia, Texas Tech,
Iowa
Houston,
State's
TCU, they're all kind of in those spots where like their record could be 3 games different. I wouldn't be super surprised because the round robin of that is going to be kind of interesting to watch.
Absolutely. Final segment of the day here on the Afternoon Underdogs. If you want to play fantasy football, keep it locked in here to ESPN Northwest Florida, and I'll tell you how when we get back.
ESPN Northwest Florida is your home for college football and the Auburn Tigers.
He dives! He's in! Touchdown Auburn!
We heard you, Tiger fans. So this season, we're airing every single game. And you can take that to the bank.
It's picked off in the end zone!
Plus, the biggest games in the SEC and around the country play here on your official station for college football, ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday evening. As we head into tonight, clear skies and a low of 82 with a light breeze at 6 miles per hour coming out of the south-southwest. For tomorrow morning, light showers and likely thunderstorms and a temp near 88. In the afternoon and evening, a possibility of thunderstorms and mostly sunshine and a high around 88. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
Are you tired of hearing 2 weeks when you call to get your boat worked on? Hey folks, it's Chris Kramer with Kramer Marine and Outdoor, and we'll get you in and back out on the water as quick as possible. We're a full-line Yamaha outboard dealer and Suzuki outboard dealer, and we have master-trained certified mechanics on site. So if it's just an annual service, electronics install, trolling motor install, or all the way up to a full repower, we can take care of you. So stop by and see us in the corner of Frankfurt and 23rd next to Bill Kramer GM, or call us at 850-851-0453.
Attention homeowners, are you dreaming of a backyard oasis? Look no further than S&R Fencing, your go-to destination for quality outdoor transformations. At S&R, they specialize in crafting custom fences, decks, retainer walls, and all exterior construction that not only enhances the beauty of your home, but also stands the test of time. Their experienced team takes pride in delivering top-notch craftsmanship with a personal touch. S&R Fencing, locally owned, licensed, and insured, and a member of the BBB.
We don't sell the steak.
You can stir this all up.
We sell the sizzle. Now back to the Afternoon Underdogs.
Very spicy.
ESPN Northwest Florida.
And we are back. This is our final segment here of the Afternoon Underdogs. We will be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. I think I'll have Caveman Rick and possibly Adam Goff in the building with us as always on Tuesdays. It is Tyler Bishop sitting there as the co-host, doing a wonderful job, and we keep it locked in on college football. We actually got an opportunity to talk some baseball today. All-Star game tonight at 7 p.m. Corbin Burns going for the AL, going up against Paul Skeens for the National League. So I've got the National League winning tonight 3-2. Chef Ross has both teams scoring over 5 runs. So we'll see how the offense fares tonight. We will not be airing that. We're going to have Paul Feinbaum. But yeah, if you want to play fantasy football with us, you got to be able to show up live to the live fantasy draft. That's going to be August 25th, which is a Sunday. We'll be holding that at 6:30. It's BYOB. We'll be providing pizza or something to be able to snack on. And you know, I would set aside 3-4 hours or so. It doesn't normally take that long, but that way you've got plenty of time. And if you want to look at some cards during the event, you've got a perfect opportunity. Or maybe you want to bring the youngin something home. Hey, we've got TCGs over there, coins, all kind of things for collections. Rick Ty's got the National League winning 5-4 tonight. But if you want to play fantasy football with the Afternoon Underdogs, with ESPN Northwest Florida for that matter, text your name and your email to 850-215-6290. I'll be reaching out when I can, but if you send that text in, best believe I'm writing you down. When you, instead of me saying your name or letting you know that you're in, I am writing you down on a piece of paper. That way I can kind of keep count. I went in and I cleared out all the leagues today, so now I've got to get in and clear out all of the group chats and get all of those ready. It's a long process, but it's a fun process, and I really enjoy meeting the new listeners. If you've never been a part of a fantasy draft, a live fantasy draft, there's not much like it. We've got the Auction League draft coming up here soon. Excited for that. That's a little different. It has nothing to do with the radio station. Also something that doesn't have anything to do with the radio station, but if you like not having to put a lot of money out, I run a $20 pick'em. For the NFL, which is all games throughout the whole entire season, and winner at the end of the season gets all of the money. So if you'd like that, if you'd like to get into that, just go over to Facebook, add David Hayes as a friend, and you'll see my latest post has the information for all of that stuff, and we'll get that started. Colorado, Tyler Bishop, what do you have the Buffaloes going here in the year of our Lord 2024?
Don't tell Prime. Don't tell Shador. Got him at 3-9.
I think I'm drinking the juice a little bit this year. I'm not drinking it as much as I was last year. I think I had them at 8-4. This year I'm going 7-5. They start off with North Dakota State. That's going to be a huge tell, right? Like, not a huge tell, but if they lose that game.
Oh, yeah.
Which there's trouble in paradise.
It's North Dakota State. I don't know what they've got coming back, but they're not a program that you can really just always pencil in as a W for a lesser program like Colorado.
Then they're on the road taking on Nebraska. I would imagine with them only having 3 wins.
I got Nebraska winning that one.
I also have Nebraska winning that. I think that the defense, Travis Hunter was streaming online the other day, EA College Football. I don't know if you saw this.
I saw it. Talk about the offensive line.
The offensive line. He was like, they
can't block nobody.
They can't block nobody. As our co-host yesterday, Coach Brian Haddad said, if Shador was the one saying that, there would be something to watch. Luckily, it was just Travis Hunter saying that. I've got him winning against Colorado State, Baylor, losing to a team that I'm really high on in UCF. I've got him losing to Kansas State, beating Arizona, but you're higher on Arizona than what I am. I've got him beating Cincinnati, beating Texas Tech, losing to Utah, beating Kansas because I don't believe in Kansas after about the 7th, 8th week of the season, and then finishing out the season with the loss to Oklahoma State.
I got them beating Cincinnati, Colorado State, and North Dakota State.
Okay, yes. So those are their three dubs right there. Kansas State, led by Avery Johnson. They let Mr. Howard go to Ohio State in favor of this young man. What record do you have for the Wildcats?
I may be a little high on them. I've got them at 11-1.
Ooh, okay. I have a team in the Big 12 at 11-1, but not this particular team. I had this team one notch under them at 10-2. Where's our differences?
I've got them losing to West Virginia. I feel like on the road.
I've got them losing that game
on the road. Morgantown can be kind of a weird place, but outside of that, they don't play Utah. They don't play. They get Oklahoma State at the house. They don't play UCF, and I think they get some revenge from losing to Oklahoma State last year.
Yeah, I like that, man, and that road game could be pivotal because that's my other loss for them is Oklahoma State because I've got them as the premier team in the Big 12. The Cowboys, they're bringing like 70% of their roster back. Ollie Gordon's going to be back as well. Those are my two losses for Kansas State is Oklahoma State and then on the road at West Virginia, which brings us to the next team in Oklahoma State. What do you have their record at?
10-2.
All right, so it's essentially what are your two losses there for Oklahoma State?
Utah and Kansas State.
Oh, Utah and Kansas State. See, I've got them beating Utah because they've got them there at the house, and then obviously they're on the road against Kansas State. That's going to be a tough one. It's a weird loss that I have them taking. I've got Oklahoma State losing to TCU, being on the road, but it's after a stretch of 3 out of 4 games that are road games.
Okay.
So I feel like maybe
just a little bit of the wear and tear catches up to
Yeah,
them.
exactly.
I tell you, though, if they can get to that first bye week, the second half of their schedule, BYU, Baylor, Arizona State, TCU, Texas Tech, and Colorado, based on my predictions, you're playing like one over 500 team at that point. Like, I mean, that's as easy as it gets if they can get to that point.
Let's go over to the Utes. What do you have? We'll save UCF for last. What do you have Utah going?
I got them going 11-1.
11-1. All right, so I'm one step underneath you there at 10-2. Now this is an odd schedule. We were kind of talking about this earlier before we ever cracked the mics today. Utah has 10 Big 12 games on their schedule. I'll just kind of bring it out. They've got SUU. Not entirely sure who that is.
Southern Utah, I would imagine.
Southern Utah. That's a great guess right there. They've got Baylor. Then they've got Utah State. Then they've got Oklahoma State, Arizona State, TCU, Houston, BYU, Colorado, Iowa State, and UCF. So,
I actually think they played Baylor last year in Utah, so it would not surprise me if Baylor is the non-conference conference game.
All right, so there you have it.
I would have said BYU because of the rivalry, but I think they did play. I think they played Baylor last year, so it made sense they just kept it.
And it would not have been a good thing had they counted this as a conference game because then it's like, well, if you lose that game,
it's kind of a no-win scenario at that point.
Exactly. So I've got them going 10-2. I've got them losing to Oklahoma State, a team that I'm really high on, and then another team that I'm really high on is UCF. And because they're on the road and it's a Friday, I've got UCF upsetting possibly at that point a good Utah team. And here's the other thing. With that, when we get to that Oklahoma State game right there, September 21st, we don't necessarily know that Cam Rising is still going to be healthy at that point. Do we even know what his real health status is going into this season? I remember last year, what was it, Utah, Florida, to open it up? And we didn't know if Cam Rising was going to play.
And he ended up not playing.
Yeah,
he didn't play at all last year.
Yeah.
So I've got them winning out until the very last week on the road in the bounce house in Orlando. At that point, you could be looking at like a top 15 matchup. Could be, ESPN game day implications there, but with it being the off day, maybe getting that double header on game day there. I've got them going 11-1, lone loss to the Knights.
All right, and then we'll dive into our final record to go over, and then we'll divulge who we've got playing in the Big 12 championship, and then who our dark horse would be that maybe we're not chiming in on, because we went over our contenders and pretenders last week. All right, UNH. Then they've got Sam Houston. Then they've on the road TCU. Anyways, record for UCF. What do you got them going at?
10-2.
10-2. I'm right. I'm one game underneath you, man. And I don't even know how. Okay, actually, I think I have them at 10-2, brother, because I have Arizona State losing to UCF, and for some reason I have a L on this page.
UCF, you have both losing the game.
Yeah, so nope. That's actually, I have UCF at 10-2, one of those being a non-conference loss. So you've got them losing to Florida as well.
I do. I didn't love making the pick when I did it, but I was like, on the road, in the swamp. Like sometimes, like the atmosphere becomes too much. You know, they're too much trying to prove it, make a few sloppy mistakes. And I mean, this is a huge hypothetical, 3 months out or whatever. But I could see them dropping that one.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the beginning of the season, especially if TCU isn't the team of 2 years ago, right? Which, I mean, they do have important pieces coming back, one of those being the running back Trey Sanders. But yeah, they start out with UNH, Sam Houston, and TCU. Then they get a bye week. Then they've got Colorado. Then they travel to the swamp. That's going to be a tough game, regardless of how Florida's been looking to that point. Florida could have just taken a loss because of how tough their schedule is.
Florida can't afford to lose that game at home either.
No.
That's going to be what they need to have.
And then they get Cincinnati. They've got Iowa State on the road, BYU, Arizona State. The schedule lines up very nice for UCF this year.
I agree.
Who do you got playing in the Big 12 championship, which there is no sides or anything here? So, man, it's going to be tough because I've got 3 teams now sitting here at 10-2 and Oklahoma State. So it would look like, because by default, UCF only having 1 conference loss here, I would have UCF taking on Oklahoma State.
Well, who'd you have UCF losing to in conference? I had them losing to at West Virginia.
I had UCF losing to West Virginia.
Okay, so we had them both losing to West Virginia and Florida. Interesting.
Yeah.
So I wasn't considering the fact that the Florida loss was a non-conference, because then that would leave Utah, K-State, and UCF all with 1 conference loss. I don't know how they would settle that 3-way tie.
Would it be point differential after that?
I guess because, no, UCF, in my prediction, beats Utah. So that gives them over Utah. So I don't know how.
And then UCF and Kansas State don't play.
So I don't know how that works out.
Oh, man.
I just created myself a whole hairy situation.
But could you imagine? And the reason, man, I really would love to see UCF win the Big 12 and get in the college football playoff, and then hopefully take, find a way to get a matchup against Missouri. And then you have Randy Pittman and Cam Keys over there in Missouri. Randy Pittman representing Mosley at UCF. All 3 of those kids in the game, man. Isaac Paul is playing for Kennesaw State. He is a free safety out of Mosley. So their first year in D1, I think that's going to be interesting, man. A lot of people clamoring to use those for their CFB dynasty.
Huge starting team for a lot of people. But yeah, no, I don't know how. I mean, I would imagine UCF probably ends up getting screwed there because they're going to end up being the lower ranked team with that second loss.
Man, who's your dark horse? Who's someone that maybe you didn't give them a good record prediction, but you wouldn't be surprised if you were wrong about them? And why is it Colorado? No, I'm just kidding.
I would say maybe a team like Baylor. If they were to turn around, I think Aranda's a pretty good coach. He's made the Big 12 title game. He's shown that he knows how to win in this conference. He's been on a little bit of a backslide, but it does seem like they're playing a little bit of NIL money out there. So if they have a little bit better team than I'm expecting, I wouldn't be super surprised.
I'm gonna go, since you took Baylor, and I love that pick. I agree with you. I'm gonna go Texas Tech, man. I think that the schedule's kind of favorable for them as well. They don't have Kansas State. They do have Oklahoma State later on in the season, and they're on the road for that one. But that's the direction I'm going to go. Tyler, as always, Tuesdays, man, such a blast having you on the show with us. We'll dive into the ACC, or try to get as close as we can to it next week. Coach James Taylor Show live at 7, Inside Drive back at 11, and we're back tomorrow at 4. Just remember, Jesus loves you, so do I. Paul Feinbaum's up next.
ESPN Northwest Florida, the Paul Feinbaum Show.
Let's give a round of applause on a Friday night to Sparks. Come on in, Sparks. It's all yours. Woo!
Good evening, ladies and germs. How y'all doing? Hey,
get this bum off the stage. Boo!
Paul Feinbaum, weeknights, 6 to 10 on ESPN Northwest Florida.
This is Joanna with ESPN Northwest Florida. Here is your weather forecast on this Tuesday evening. As we head into tonight, clear skies and a low of 82 with a light breeze at 6 miles per hour coming out of the south-southwest. For tomorrow morning, light showers and likely thunderstorms and a temp near 88. In the afternoon and evening, a possibility of thunderstorms and mostly sunshine and a high around 88. This weather forecast is brought to you by Earthworks of Northwest Florida. Thank you for tuning into ESPN Northwest Florida. Rely on it.
With over 65 years of combined experience,